I am the real daughter of a wealthy family who has been living outside. Growing up in an orphanage since I was a child didn't prevent me from achieving great success in the college entrance examination and making a name for myself in the industry. While the fake daughter was dating in college, I was working as an intern in a large firm, toiling away without complaint, while the fake daughter was partying in the bar. I had already been employed by the family company and was promoted to a middle management position. It was not until I rightfully entered the Smith family, the fake daughter went crazy and asked me why I could easily take her place. I smiled and patted her face, saying, "A little sparrow raised in a cage can never compare to an eagle soaring in the sky, just like a pampered young lady can never compare to an ambitious businessperson." The day after the college entrance examination results were announced, because I ranked first in the examination, I was brought back to the Smith family. My mother hugged me in front of the media, and my brother standing aside also smiled and looked at me. It was not until the gate of the Smith family's mansion closed and the media left. My mother immediately put away her smile, left me behind and walked into the gate in a hurry. My brother also looked at me disdainfully from head to toe, sneered and followed my mother closely. I knew that they were eager to comfort the fake daughter Wendy, who was secretly crying in the room. My father, however, stood beside me and tested me. "Victoria, you won't mind them acting like this, will you?" I looked up at my father standing beside me and said honestly, "I do mind a little, but after all, the kindness of upbringing is greater than the kindness of giving birth. I can understand my mother and brother." My father saw that I wasn't lying, nodded in satisfaction and led me into the house. After all the commotion, it was already afternoon. My father and brother went to the company for a meeting, and my mother was busy having tea with the ladies. In the huge mansion, only Wendy and I were left. I was sitting on the sofa in the living room, talking on the phone with the teacher from the admissions office. When I looked up, I saw Wendy standing on the second floor, looking down at me haughtily. I smiled and leaned against the sofa, saying to the person on the other end of the phone, "Then please send the admission notice to the Smith family. I will ask the butler to open the door." After that, the corners of my mouth raised, and I looked up at Wendy, whose emotions were unpredictable. Wendy gritted her teeth and sneered as she came downstairs. "I didn't expect you're still alive." As expected, the vitality of a beast is tenacious. I sat on the sofa with my head propped up and also smiled and replied, "Of course I'm not dead. Not only am I not dead, but I will also make your life in the Smith family a living hell in the days to come." Wendy's temper was not as gentle and polite as it seemed on the surface. As soon as I provoked her, she exploded like a firecracker. She stepped forward, grabbed my hair and gritted her teeth, saying, "Victoria, I'm telling you, keep everything you know to yourself, or I'll make you pay." But I didn't care. I pinched Wendy's nerve with my left hand, making her let go of my hair. With my right hand, I grabbed her arm and pushed her onto the coffee table. She struggled desperately, but I simply and neatly grabbed her well-maintained hair. I raised my palm and slapped her pretty face. I used a clever force with my hand, and the slap was both painful and loud. Wendy's face immediately swelled up. I slowly pinched her chin and smiled. "Who do you think you are? How dare you talk to me like this? I'm telling you, I'm now the highly sought-after top scorer in the college entrance examination in B City, while you're just a reserve student who can't pass the general academic courses and relies on your parents. You yourself committed school bullying, which caused a little girl to fall into depression and jump off a building, and yet you dare to threaten me to shut up. Don't think the Smith family will protect you. Mom probably doesn't know that you've long known your true identity and have been using the Smith family's money to subsidize your biological mother, right?" Looking at Wendy's pupils that shrank instantly, I smiled in satisfaction. Then I let go of her hair and leaned back on the sofa again. "Thank you for my hard work in the high school entrance examination, which allowed me to study in the same high school as you. Also, thank you for my early knowledge that I'm the daughter of the Smith family, so I've been paying special attention to you, you shameless person who has occupied someone else's place." Looking at her struggling to get up, I crossed my legs, propped up my head and smiled. "I have written and video evidence of your school bullying and subsidizing your biological mother, but don't even think about killing people to get rid of the trouble. After all, I'm now the highly anticipated top scorer in the college entrance examination." After that, I picked up the room key on the table, pushed aside Wendy, who was blocking my way, and went up to the second floor. Wendy was threatened by me and didn't dare to go and complain to our parents at all. She just said that she slipped and fell after taking a shower and hurt her face. And tonight, the Smith family held a special banquet for me. Originally, Wendy wanted to take this opportunity to outshine me. But now that her face was swollen like a pig's head from my slap, she naturally chose to back out, and my brother, who was supposed to take me to meet people, stood aside indifferently, clearly wanting to see me make a fool of myself. Under the warm and bright lights of the banquet hall, my brother bent slightly and whispered in my ear, "Don't expect me to help you, Victoria." I raised my eyes slightly and looked into his cynical and handsome face, with a half-smile. "Brother, is your head full of bubbles? You actually let me embarrass the Smith family for your own selfish desires. With so many bubbles in your head, ask the butler to buy you more bubble machines after the banquet is over. Also, stop talking. I'm afraid that if you open your mouth, you'll foam at the mouth like a fish." After that, I left my brother, who was frowning from being retorted, and smiled as I greeted the young lady of the Lewis family who was approaching, before going on stage. I quickly scanned the audience. Most of those young masters and ladies were my high school classmates. It was not in vain that I studied so hard and got into the best class of the Key High School in B City. Although I'm not from a wealthy family, my outstanding academic performance and my talent that can be grasped at once have won me the appreciation of many people. What's more, everyone knows that I'm from an orphanage. But I'm graceful in dealing with people, therefore. Even the most mean young masters and ladies won't deliberately make things too difficult for me. Sarah Lewis took my hand and looked me up and down, then nodded in satisfaction. "I knew that with your intelligence and beauty, you must be the lost pearl of some wealthy family. I'm so glad I guessed it right." The young master of the William family also chimed in. "I think so too. Look at how Victoria does her economics homework. She's fast, accurate and ruthless. She must have inherited Uncle Smith's genes." I made some joking remarks, and the young masters and ladies around me all burst into laughter. Out of the corner of my eye, I glanced at my brother standing in the corner and didn't miss the confusion and suspicion in his eyes, the corners of my mouth slightly raised, but I still calmly changed the topic and continued to chat with the young masters and ladies. My father and mother didn't come to the younger generation's banquet hall until the end. When they saw me surrounded in the center like a star being admired by the moon, I was communicating gracefully with my peers. A trace of appreciation flashed in my father's eyes, and my mother was a little hesitant but still happy for me. After all, as the fake daughter, Wendy had complained to our parents more than once. She said that these young masters and ladies didn't like her, targeted and her everywhere, and even asked our parents to stand up for her. But parents don't like to interfere in the affairs between children, so Wendy would always be resentful after every dinner party. After the dinner party ended, my brother and I stood at the door to see off the guests on behalf of the Smith family. The evening wind in B City wasn't very cool, but it blew the hair beside my temples, revealing the valuable jewelry. The 18-year-old girl was dignified and elegant, and with the embellishment of jewels. She didn't look like someone who had lived in an orphanage for more than 10 years at all. Instead, she was more like a young lady of a wealthy family who had received air education since childhood. When the guests saw my dignified demeanor, they all praised my father for our family's good genes. Even a child who grew up in the slums was still so excellent. My father and mother were beaming with pride after being praised, and there was a bit of kindness in their eyes when they looked at me. Only my brother standing beside me was taciturn, without the spirit he had when bickering with me before the banquet started. After the guests had all left and my parents had also entered the house, he hesitated and said, "Are you, really Victoria?" I was about to enter the house, but when I heard this, I turned around and looked at him in surprise. "Of course I'm Victoria, the Victoria with the blood of the Smith family, the one who has the same parents as you." Seeing that he still wanted to say something, I raised my hand to stop him. "I know Wendy has said a lot of bad things about me in front of you. She said at school that I stole things, had a chaotic private life, that I was a bitch, and that I was obsessed with money. Everyone avoided me. But today you also saw that the young masters and ladies in my class were all around me. You know them very well. They are all experienced people who have known a lot of people since they were young. But why don't they want to talk to Wendy but are willing to have a deep friendship with me? Brother, maybe you've never really seen through Wendy, and you shouldn't have believed her one-sided words. It's really hot here, so I'll go in first." After that, I lifted my skirt and went upstairs with the maid waiting inside the door, leaving my brother alone where he was. It was not easy to go upstairs in high heels, so I held the maid's arm. The short-sleeved uniforms that the maids of the Smith family wore uniformly made me notice the maid's scarred arms. I asked her how she got those wounds. She lowered her eyes and stammered, I hurt the second young lady when I was putting on her earrings, and she scratched me with a dinner knife. Looking at the ferocious scars on the maid's arm, I raised my eyebrows slightly. Did you tell your father and mother about this? She shook her head, and there was a hint of a sob in her voice. The second young lady said that if I told on her, she would fire me, but my mother is sick and needs a lot of money. I can't lose this job. I nodded but didn't say anything more. The maid saw that I was silent, and there was a bit of anxiety between her eyebrows, but she hesitated to speak. I just went back to my room on my own and dismissed her with a smile. The next morning, I got up late. When I went downstairs, my mother and the teacher from the admissions office were sitting on the sofa chatting. When they saw me coming downstairs, the teacher from the admissions office smiled and joked with my mother. Mrs. Smith is really good at raising children. Both of your children are extremely excellent. I smiled and greeted the teacher, and then sat beside my mother at her invitation. The teacher from the admissions office held the school's promotional brochure and asked, "What major do you want to study?" Victoria. Both the College of Arts and the College of Fine Arts of B City University are very famous. I glanced at my mother who was leisurely drinking tea beside me and smiled. I'm still a child and don't know much. Let mom make the decision about such things. The wealthy families always value interests more than family affection. What's more, I'm new here, and I can't reveal my ambition before my parents have expressed their opinions. My mother smiled and looked at me, and said casually, "Your brother is studying finance at B City University and doesn't have a companion all day long. Why don't you study with him?" The teacher from the admissions office was very observant. After hearing what my mother said, he readily took out another brochure and introduced, "The finance major of B City University is affiliated with the GX School of Management. The school has majors in finance, accounting and marketing. Victoria, are you interested in any of them?" I looked at my mother and said humbly, "I don't have my brother's ability. Accounting is a very good choice for me." My mother nodded in satisfaction, chatted with the teacher from the admissions office for a few more words, and personally saw the teacher out. After saying goodbye to my mother, I turned and went to the greenhouse. The maid didn't come to arrange flowers in the vase in my room last night, but today I have to entertain important guests, so I have to do it myself. As a result, when I opened the door of the greenhouse, I saw Wendy sitting on a chair with a hostile expression, looking at me. I smiled and looked at her, with a half-smile. "It seems that you're fully recovered, and you even dare to show off in front of me." Wendy sneered and gritted her teeth. "I didn't expect you to be quite smart. You actually managed to persuade Mom to let you study management, because Wendy's grades were too poor. She would also be embarrassed if she took the domestic college entrance examination. So my mother sent her to Italy to study art. But the Smith family's industries mainly focus on technology, innovation, and other fields, which have nothing to do with what Wendy is studying." I chuckled and leaned against the door frame of the greenhouse. "Do you really think that just relying on Mom's favor, you, with an empty head, can easily obtain the management right of the Smith family, when you were raised as an innocent little princess since you were a child? Your value was already defined by your parents. You are just a tool for the Smith family's external marriage alliance. When you get married in the future, the Smith family will have nothing to do with you." Looking at Wendy's increasingly dark face, my smile grew wider. "But I'm different. When I learned in the orphanage that I'm the daughter of the Smith family, I made up my mind that I must be a manager of the Smith family together with my brother. After that." I looked at the maid standing with her hands down behind Wendy. "Also, your lackey has terrible acting skills." I didn't even have to test her, and she revealed herself. I saw the dinner knives commonly used by the Smith family at the banquet hall. The shape of the blade has nothing to do with her wound. That wound was just made by an ordinary paper cutter. Next time you try to deceive me, remember to do a more thorough job. After that, I left Wendy, who was in a rage, and went back to my room on my own. In September, Wendy and I started school. Wendy still wanted to make a last-ditch effort. Before the start of the semester, she acted coquettishly with our mother, saying that she wanted to change her major to finance. However, she was rejected by our mother with just a few words and a smile. As the fake daughter, Wendy had enjoyed a princess-like life in the Smith family for more than 10 years. But in the end, she found that she had no say in the Smith family at all. Surprisingly, my brother didn't speak up for Wendy. Instead, he just sat quietly at the dining table, eating his food. He also knew Wendy's ability level. After studying art, opening a gallery would be enough for her. As a tool for a marriage alliance, she didn't need to interfere too much in family affairs. Wendy herself didn't dare to make a scene. She could only swallow her anger and go to school in Italy. My brother and I went to B City University to register together. My brother changed his previous disdain and patiently showed me around the campus. After all, we are all smart people. Since our mother allowed me to choose accounting, it meant that she tacitly approved of my future work in the Smith family. My brother wasn't stupid either. After my confession that night, he also investigated my real situation, rather than forming enmity with me because of a lying marriage alliance tool. It was better to make peace with me. After all, I am his real sister and the person who will inherit the power of the Smith family with him in the future. When we passed by the club recruitment area, I looked up at the banner and then quickly walked towards the pottery club. The classmate in charge of recruitment under the recruitment shed was my senior from high school. I chatted with her with a smile and then filled out the club membership application form. My brother, standing aside, had a complicated expression on his face but patiently waited for me to sign. After I finished writing, he said, "I didn't expect you to like this kind of thing." I nodded with a smile and said as we walked, "When I was a child in the orphanage, the director didn't like me and tried all kinds of ways to keep me from eating. Next to the orphanage was a pottery shop run by an old grandpa. He felt sorry for me, so he always gave me something to eat." Over time, I developed a liking for pottery. After that, I glanced at my brother and saw that he pressed his lips together and remained silent. I knew what he was thinking. If I remembered correctly, after the Smith family gave birth to a daughter, their business took off. They quickly became one of the wealthy families in B City by taking advantage of the internet boom, while I, their real daughter, was starving and freezing in the orphanage. The imposter Wendy was enjoying the glory and wealth that belonged to me. A hint of a smile flashed in my eyes. I just wanted to use my brother's sympathy to get closer to him. The reason why I joined the pottery club was just that my brother was the president of this club. I would definitely work with my brother in the end, so there was no need to make the relationship so stiff, perhaps because of his guilt towards me. My brother patiently showed me around the whole school and introduced me to several rich second-generation friends of his. With my brother's tacit approval, the rich second-generation people all knew that I was a future member of the powerful family clique, and they all called me sister in a familiar way. I also showed the attitude I had when dealing with the young masters and ladies in high school and quickly got along well with these brothers, because I was talented and intelligent, even though I didn't enjoy high-quality educational resources in the orphanage. I managed to carve out a way for myself in B City with my super learning ability. If I didn't know a second foreign language, I learned it. If I didn't know how to do ballroom dancing and horseback riding, I asked my mother to hire a special teacher to teach me. In just a few months, I had acquired the same specialties that the young masters and ladies in B City had. My father and mother were even more appreciative of me when they saw how hard I was working. Even my brother advised me to take more rest and not to tire myself out. I smiled and thanked my brother for his kindness, but I studied even harder. This was Wendy's only advantage over me. I wanted to completely replace her before she came back. No matter how capable Wendy was, she couldn't fly back from Italy every week to maintain her social circle. So when she returned to China in December, she was to find that I had already completely integrated into the upper class in B City. In other words, Wendy's home had been stolen at the dining table. Before she could act coquettishly with our mother, she was stunned in her seat by our mother's words. "Wendy, I heard that you failed several courses at the Accademia di Belle Arti di Firenze this semester." I sat upright, gracefully picked up the spoon and slowly stirred it in the bowl. The glee in my eyes couldn't be hidden. My high school best friend studied at the same school as Wendy in Florence. She had already complained to me that Wendy went to the bar every day, and she just fooled around with the homework assigned by the teacher. During the exam, she even tried to find a substitute. She had to take the exam reluctantly after almost being reported. Naturally, her final grades were very poor. The smile on our mother's face remained unchanged, but the words she said made Wendy shiver. "Wendy, you also know that you're not a child of the Smith family. Over the years, you haven't suffered any hardships in the Smith family, and the tuition fees of the Accademia di Belle Arti di Firenze can't be afforded by your original family. The Smith family has done their best by sending you to college. You can't bring shame to the Smith family outside." Looking at Wendy's incredulous expression, a hint of mockery flashed in my eyes, but I just lowered my head and started to drink the soup. Wendy overestimated her position in the hearts of the Smith family's parents. She thought she was the young lady of the Smith family, but she didn't know that without a blood relationship with the Smith family, she was just a tool for the Smith family's external marriage alliance. Without her, the Smith family would just lose a pawn. Without ability, one could only be at the mercy of others in a wealthy family. Finally, when the meal was over, Wendy had tears in her eyes and turned around to go upstairs to her bedroom. None of the people in the Smith family went to comfort her. They all sat in the living room drinking tea. My father looked at the invitation sent by his assistant and casually told my brother, "There's an exhibition tomorrow afternoon. I don't have time to attend. You go with Victoria." My brother nodded and then joked with my father, "Then you must read the report I write after I attend it." My father frowned. "The reports you write make me feel sleepy. They're not as good as Victoria's. You ask Victoria to help you write it." When I heard this, I immediately shook my head. "Dad, why do you two, father and son, have to drag me into your battle? I won't do it." I made a few more jokes, which made the old man laugh heartily. It was a harmonious family atmosphere. My mother also smiled and interjected, "Victoria's final grades this time are also very good. Mom is going to attend an auction in G City next week. If there's anything you like, just tell Mom." I smiled and leaned against my mother, acting coquettishly. Mom is still the best to me. Unlike Dad and brother, they just want to exploit me. After drinking tea, my father was called by his friend to go fishing, and my mother went to the Lewis family to play mahjong with the ladies. I went upstairs to change my clothes. When I came downstairs again, Wendy was sitting in the living room with an unfriendly expression. When she saw me coming down, she was furious. "What happened to my former maid? Did you do it?" I raised my eyebrows and smiled. "That maid stole my earrings and sold them." Mother dismissed her. "The chef, who is the maid's brother and is in charge of our daily meals, has also been replaced. Didn't you notice it when you were eating, sister?" Looking at Wendy's increasingly dark face, I seemed to remember something. "Oh, right. Sister has been in Italy for several months, so of course she's unfamiliar with the family now." Looking at my attitude as if I were the hostess, Wendy finally lost her composure. She pointed at me and cursed, "Victoria, you bitch, why do you steal my things?" As she spoke, she stood up and was about to grab my hair, but I waved her hand away with one hand, and she fell back onto the sofa. I took the opportunity to step on her stomach with one foot, after slowly coiling up my hair. I bent down and gave her several slaps. Wendy was slapped by me and curled up on the sofa, covering her face. I grabbed her hair and made her look directly at me. I smiled and said, "Wendy, have you forgotten your identity? What do you mean by steal your things? I'm the real daughter of our mother and the legitimate young lady of the Smith family. You're just an imposter who has occupied someone else's place. How dare you provoke me?" Looking at Wendy's face full of hatred, my smile grew wider. "You knew my identity when we were in high school. You even asked the gangsters of the same grade to beat me in the toilet, trying to make me drop out of school. Now I'm giving back to you the suffering I endured back then. It's not too much, is it?" As I spoke, I kicked Wendy in the stomach. Wendy let out a scream and slid from the sofa to the ground. She struggled to look up and saw my brother standing at the kitchen door out of the corner of her eye. She seemed to see a life-saving straw. "Brother, Victoria is crazy. Come and save me." I also smiled and looked at my brother. My brother held a cup and walked past me without looking sideways and went upstairs. Wendy couldn't believe it and called him again. "Brother, didn't you hear me? Victoria is hitting me." My brother finally turned around, but he told me, "Remember not to cause a death." I nodded with a smile, then picked up the golf club that was placed aside as a decoration and hit Wendy with it. Wendy was beaten and curled up on the ground, and she immediately fell silent. Back then, Wendy and I were in the same high school. She knew that I was the real daughter of the Smith family. In order to get rid of the trouble once and for all, she targeted me everywhere. She had money and could hire gangsters. She asked the gangsters to lie in wait for me on my way home, beating me until I was covered in injuries, because I studied well. She spread rumors that I cheated, slept with the teacher, and exchanged my body for grades. She couldn't catch up with the excellent monitor herself, so she told her sisters that I was a green tea bitch who was two-timing and wouldn't let go of the monitor. I was wrongly smeared with dirt for no reason, and the classmates in the class all thought that I was a person with a lot of bad records. Finally, the monitor couldn't stand it anymore and exposed her lies, which allowed me to study in high school in peace. And Wendy was also isolated by everyone because of her lies, and no one paid attention to her anymore. Now that she was in my hands, I naturally wouldn't let her go. I dragged her up from the ground, looked into her eyes, and smiled. Do you know how much I hated you when I was surrounded and beaten in the toilet, but I had to endure it until I could rightfully enter the Smith family and then step on you hard. I originally just wanted to return to the Smith family to get back what belonged to me and then let you off, but when you smeared me with dirt, I changed my mind. I want to make you fall completely into the mud, squeeze out your last bit of value, make you exhaust everything from my promising life, and finally die at my feet. After that, I threw her back to the ground again and patted the dust off my hands. So you'd better be honest now and don't let me catch you doing something wrong. Otherwise, it will only make you die a more miserable death. After that, I left Wendy and turned around to go upstairs. My brother stood at the corner on the second floor, looking at Wendy downstairs who was covered in wounds. His face showed a look of heartache. Victoria, after all, she has been with me day and night for more than 10 years, don't be like this. Okay, I turned around, looked him up and down, and wordlessly took off my coat. My brother immediately turned his face to the side, avoiding looking at me as if to avoid suspicion. I took off my outer garment, leaving only a camisole and shorts on my body. I stood in front of my brother and forced him to clearly see my exposed skin. The ferocious scars and the newly grown pink skin due to scalding made his expression change. I pointed at the scald mark and looked straight at my brother. I was admitted to number 1 middle school in B City at the age of 16. Wendy knew that I was the real daughter of the Smith family and targeted me everywhere. This is the mark she burned on me with a cigarette butt. She said that as long as I didn't drop out of school, she would come to trouble me every day. There are countless such scars. I still have the marks on my back that she whipped with a riding crop. Slapping me was even more common, while she was enjoying a rich life. I was surrounded by the gangsters she hired in an alley. If it weren't for the passing police, I would have almost been raped. Do you know that? Now you're telling me, don't be like this. Why should I? By the end, my emotions were almost out of control. Realizing that I had lost my composure, I forcibly suppressed my anger, picked up the clothes that had been thrown at my feet, and said indifferently, I hate the harm that Wendy inflicted on me. So I want to squeeze out all the value from her and pave the way for myself. If you want to stop me, don't blame me for taking action against you. After that, I left my brother standing there and turned back to my room. The next afternoon, I went downstairs wearing a capable suit. The driver opened the car door for me. My brother was already sitting in the back seat early. When he saw me getting in, he was instantly a little flustered. On the way to the exhibition, the partition of the luxury car slowly rose, and my brother handed me a business card. I lowered my eyes. It was the best scar removal doctor in B City. He coughed lightly. It doesn't look good for a girl to have scars on her body. This doctor is my friend and has a lot of experience in scar removal. I made an appointment for you for next Monday. If you want to go, you can have a look. After that, he turned his head and looked at me nervously. I looked at the business card again, sneered, and rolled my eyes at him. Stop staring at me, you're forgiven. My brother immediately looked relieved, smiled, moved closer to me and sat beside me. He picked up the exhibition materials beside him and started discussing with me. I lowered my eyes slightly. My brother had completely lost his pity for Wendy after my half-year-long brainwashing. My father and mother had also given up on Wendy because of her uselessness. Now as long as Wendy makes a big mistake, she will be completely disliked. The reason why I knew I was the daughter of the Smith family back then was thanks to the director of the orphanage. The director didn't like me since I was a child and found excuses to punish me by not allowing me to eat. After I went to junior high school, she became even more excessive, saying that I was as stupid as a pig and that getting the first place in the grade was just luck. It wasn't until I was admitted to number 1 middle school in B City with the 5th place in the senior high school entrance examination in the whole city that she was completely panicked and desperately didn't want me to go to high school. The principal of number 1 middle school in B City specifically came to the orphanage for this and questioned the director why she didn't let me go to school. He also vaguely threatened the director that if she didn't let me go to school, he would ask the relevant department to inspect the orphanage, and by the way, ask why. With sufficient funds, the children were still eating poor food. The director was forced into a corner and had to agree to let me go to school. I suspected there was something else going on, so I simply bought a voice recorder and stuck it under the table in the director's office. On the director's phone call, I learned my true identity. When the Smith family gave birth to me, they were in the startup stage. So the hospital where my mother gave birth wasn't very strict. The nanny who took care of her simply exchanged her newly born granddaughter with me, to get rid of the trouble once and for all. She also sent me to the orphanage controlled by her second daughter. Since then, Wendy had taken my place and became the precious second young lady of the Smith family. Wendy knew her true identity when she was 15 years old. In order to continue enjoying the good life in the Smith family, she remitted money to her biological mother on the one hand and suppressed me on the other, trying to make me drop out of school and completely lose the opportunity to rise in social class. But I didn't do as she wished. Under pressure, I became the top scorer in the college entrance examination. In an interview, I said that due to the negligence of the nanny, the babies were at the hospital and I was the real daughter of the Smith family, under the pressure of public opinion. The Smith family had a DNA test and found that I was indeed the real daughter of the Smith family. Now that I'm back in the Smith family, I will not only make Wendy suffer, but also make her family suffer. After the exhibition ended, my brother was called by his friends to go drinking. I smiled and sent him to the entrance of the restaurant. Then I went back to the Smith family with the driver. On the way, a strange number sent me a message. I clicked it and took a look. It was my informant in M City, reporting to me that he had seen the target, the corners of my mouth slightly raised, and I gave him an order: keep a close eye on him, remember to contact the croupier number 012 in the casino. After sending the message, I deleted the record. The luxury car slowly stopped. I pushed open the car door and returned to the Smith family mansion. 3 years after Wendy's grandmother sent her into the Smith family, her grandmother and father died in a car accident, leaving Wendy's mother to raise Wendy's brother alone. Wendy's brother was very naughty and unruly. He became addicted to gambling the year before last and often lingered in the underground gambling houses on the Chinese mainland. The money that Wendy sent back in recent years had basically been lost by him. My best friend Sarah's mother's family made their fortune in M City and had just washed ashore in recent years, but they had a lot of industries in M City. So it was very easy to trick Wendy's brother into going to M City. As long as he started gambling, Wendy would be finished. After beating Wendy that day, the butler called a family doctor. She had to recuperate at home for more than a week before she could get out of bed. My father didn't care about this at all. He just told me not to forget my schoolwork during the vacation and to learn more from my brother. My mother came back from the auction in G City with a great harvest. My brother and I came home after attending a lecture and happened to see the butler and my mother counting the jewelry they had bought at the auction. When my mother saw me coming home, she immediately waved for me to come over and gave me a pair of beautiful jadeite bracelets. The bracelets were completely green and of excellent quality. Under my mother's gaze, I took off the watch on my hand and put on the bracelets with a smile to show my mother. My mother nodded in satisfaction, then took out several boxes. Inside were various kinds of jewelry, which were convenient for me to match with dresses of different colors. It wasn't until the end that my mother pointed at a small box and told the butler that this was for Wendy and asked him to keep it well. After that, my mother said she was a little tired and told me to go and rest quickly. I asked the maid behind me to put away the boxes and went upstairs together. 2 days later, the informant I placed in M City reported to me that Wendy's brother, under the temptation of the people around him, had gradually started and began to gamble a little. I transferred a sum of money to the informant and asked him to keep an eye on it. At the beginning of the second semester of my freshman year, Wendy went to Italy with her jewelry and luggage. My brother and I went back to B City University to study. After more than half a year passed, our relationship became better and better. My brother's friends also regarded me as one of their own and often took me out for meals. At the dining table, they taught me the experience they had learned in the company. I listened carefully, seeing that I was supportive. They liked me even more and almost forgot about Wendy, who had been in a relationship with them for more than 10 years. And Wendy's brother in M City was also going all out in the casino, throwing a lot of money around. The result of gambling was that he lost everything. When he had no money, he asked his mother to go to Wendy for money. Wendy gave it to him at first, but after several times, she became impatient and told him to figure it out himself. A person who was desperate for gambling had no bottom line. He immediately called Wendy, and also said that if she didn't give him money, he would go back to Beijing and spread the news that Wendy had deceived the people of the Smith family and that her school violence had led to the death of a girl all over B City. Wendy knew that if he said that, the Smith family would definitely discard her without mercy. At that time, she couldn't even afford the tuition fees to continue studying at the Accademia di Belle Arti di Firenze. So she had no choice but to start selling her luxury goods and jewelry. In just a few months, Most of Wendy's bags and jewelry had been sold. In order to maintain her socialite image outside and to deal with her parents, she had to buy counterfeits, and the jewelry was also replicated with fake diamonds 1-to-1. Even so, the debt her brother owed in M City was getting more and more. When we went home during the summer vacation, my brother and I had already started to get involved in family affairs. The Smith family participated in the bidding for a huge project. The company that was also bidding was on a par with the Smith family. When the two companies were fighting tooth and nail, my father managed to find a connection in a roundabout way. The other party said that as long as there was a marriage alliance with their family, the matter could be settled. The other party was also a fairly wealthy family in H City, but they had a very wide network of contacts, as a reserve for the marriage alliance. Wendy was immediately recalled, as a result. At the banquet, the jewelry that Wendy was wearing was a counterfeit that she had made after selling the real ones. Coincidentally, the young master of that family was majoring in jewelry appraisal and was also an expert in identifying goods. He immediately spoke sarcastically to my father, who was accompanying her. "Is your daughter really the young lady of the Smith family? Why is she still wearing counterfeits to the banquet? Is she looking down on us as upstarts and laughing at us for not knowing the value of goods?" My father was asked with a blank face. When he saw Wendy's guilty expression, he knew that it was Wendy who had caused the trouble. Poor my father, after achieving success in B City, no one dared to disrespect him. Now, at his age, he had to apologize to the younger generation because of his children's mistakes. People around were constantly trying to smooth things over. But the young master of the other party still kept mocking. In the end, the marriage alliance fell through. Wendy messed up the important marriage alliance and was escorted back to B City by bodyguards as soon as she left the venue. My mother had also heard about this matter early and was waiting at home with a dark face. As soon as Wendy entered the house, my mother slapped her. "You beast! The Smith family has fed you well and raised you for more than 10 years. Is this how you repay the Smith family?" My brother and I were extremely busy in the company. Since the way of the marriage alliance didn't work out, we had to think of other ways. When the competing products of the two companies had similar prices and qualities, what was being competed for was interpersonal relationships. My brother was at a loss in the company, but I suddenly thought of something and took the car keys and took the elevator downstairs. I drove all the way at the speed limit and managed to reach the orphanage where I grew up within half an hour. The orphanage had a new director not long ago, and the exterior wall was repainted as a whole. Even the pottery shop next door benefited from it, and the storefront was renovated. I gently pushed open the newly installed glass door of the pottery shop. The old man lying on the recliner was woken up and said slowly, "I'm not open for business today. I'm sleepy, old man that I am." I replied in a loud voice, "But Grandpa, I've been hungry for a whole day." Hearing my voice, the old man immediately looked up. Seeing that it was me, he said in surprise, "Little Victoria, why are you here? Come on, Grandpa will cook for you." My eyes felt sour. I pulled out the stool I usually sat on from under the wooden table and waited for the meal quietly. The old man prepared a table full of dishes. After watching me finish eating, he smiled and said, "Little Victoria, you don't come to me without a reason. What do you want to ask Grandpa for this time?" I felt a little embarrassed by what he said, but I had to speak honestly. Grandpa thought for a while, took out the senior citizen mobile phone from his pocket, pressed a series of buttons, and dialed a phone number. The person who answered the phone was a middle-aged man. Although his tone was official, there was a lot of respect in it. He answered the questions the old man asked respectfully. I waited patiently for him to finish asking. Grandpa hung up the phone, patted my head, and said, "Don't worry, Peter said that there will be documents within 3 days. Your opponent is going to be in big trouble. You just focus on preparing properly." I didn't doubt him. I thanked Grandpa and showed him the new skills I had learned in the school club. We played around until the evening, and I fell asleep on the small bed where I had slept since I was a child, with Grandpa's guarantee. I was naturally at ease. After all, when I finished the senior high school entrance examination and Grandpa heard that the director was stopping me from going to school, he made a phone call and brought the high school principal over. Even when I returned to the Smith family after the college entrance examination, Grandpa had helped me behind the scenes. Grandpa's sons and daughters all live and work abroad and seldom return to the country, but I have been taken care of by him since I was a child. And I can be regarded as half of his granddaughter. I am willing to support him in his old age. After sleeping for a while, I took the news back to the Smith family. After reassuring my brother, I continued to prepare the documents. Sure enough, 2 days later, the documents came out. There were major problems with the products of the other company, and they had to withdraw from the bidding. The Smith family undoubtedly won the project, and the part one participated in was crucial. My father's eyes were filled with admiration when he looked at me. After solving the urgent problem of the Smith family, the next thing was to deal with Wendy, who had caused trouble. Wendy had been locked in the basement for more than 10 days. When she came out, she was in a trance. Although my mother seemed kind and gentle on a normal day, as soon as her interests were touched, she would immediately take off her disguise. My mother's attitude towards Wendy changed completely from her previous gentleness. She looked at Wendy as if she were looking at a dead person. "Wendy, I'm asking you, why have your bags and your jewelry all become fake?" At first, Wendy didn't admit it. My mother glanced at the butler standing behind Wendy. The butler understood immediately and stepped forward to hold her down. My mother said softly, "You may not know that this butler is my capable assistant brought from my mother's family. What he is best at is torturing people. Why don't you give it a try first?" As soon as she finished speaking, the butler made a move. We only heard a click sound from Wendy's bones, and Wendy immediately let out a painful groan. After 2 or 3 rounds, Wendy confessed everything, whether it was about her own background, how she tortured me in high school, or the school bullying that led to the death of an innocent girl due to depression. In just over 10 minutes, my mother, who had experienced a lot, couldn't stop frowning. In the end, she sneered repeatedly, "Victoria, you won't mind them doing this, will you?" After listening, then my mother looked at me and asked, "What about this beast's biological mother and brother?" I turned the tablet towards my mother so that she could see the words on the screen. Wendy's brother had his hands and feet chopped off because of his debt and became a disabled person. Wendy's mother was sold by her brother to loan sharks to do hard labor. After hearing this, my mother sneered and said, "It serves them right. They made my biological daughter live outside and made me raise this ungrateful person for more than 10 years. They deserve it." After that, my mother's expression when looking at Wendy became even more terrifying. As for her, since she has killed someone, let her go to prison and pay for her crimes with her blood. After saying that, the butler handed the recording of Wendy's confession to my mother, and my mother called the police without hesitation. 3 days later, the news that the fake daughter of the wealthy Smith family was sent to prison because of school bullying was exposed instantly, but it was forcefully suppressed by the Smith family. People in B City change frequently. In less than 3 months, everyone will completely forget about Wendy. My brother and I will take over the Smith family when we graduate from university and become the new generation of leaders of the Smith family, washing away the dirt that once stained me. My future will be superlatively bright. After hearing the story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.